Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Todd, coming to you here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So, for this project here, I organized and completed a basic necessities drive. I collected food, clothing, and personal hygiene items. All these items were then donated to the Light of Life Rescue Mission here in Pittsburgh. The Light of Life Rescue Mission is a local nonprofit that is dedicated to helping the homeless, impoverished, abused, and addicted. Let me go over a little bit about the process here of what I went through to get this organized and executed. So the first thing I did is I had to determine the event that I was going to do, and I settled on a donation drive. The next thing to do was I had to find a location to host this drive. I considered the clubhouse here in my apartment complex and realized that was kind of too private of an area that I wasn't going to get enough either foot traffic or just members of the public. So I reached out to a friend of mine who owned a restaurant that I used to work at, and they agreed to let me host the the drive in their establishment. So next, I then had to pick the nonprofit or the organization that I was going to donate all the items to. And as I mentioned, I settled on the Light of Life mission. I then contacted the nonprofit to one, obtain permission from them to be able to use their name and any image likenesses on any promotional materials that I would make for this endeavor. And I also wanted to get a list from them about some of their most desired items that they would need. I didn't want to just, obviously they are thankful for any items they get donated, but I wanted to make sure that I was focusing on items that they were really in need of. And in this instance, they were really in need of men's and women's sweatpants, sweatshirts, underwear, socks, and personal hygiene items, especially with the cold weather about to be upon us up here in Pittsburgh. Once I list from them, I then created some promotional materials. I created a flyer along with a digital media post. And then went around my local community here and hung the flyers, in local supermarkets, the various apartment complexes. Um, Something that I didn't think about at the time was having to get permission from these local businesses to be able to hang these flyers. You can't just kind of walk into your local grocery store and hang up a flyer. Same with the different apartment complexes and gyms and so forth. And I also created some social media posts that I posted on my social media. And I reached out to some friends and family who I shared the digital advertising with them, and they posted it as well for me. At this point, it was time to start for me to get ready for the event and kind of go through some of the items I was going to need. I got in contact with a friend, and he was able to lend me some folding tables. And I also came to realize that I was going to need, a flyer to hang during the drive while I was at the restaurant, and also some boxes to collect everything in. So went down to Home Depot to get some moving boxes. Luckily for me, they happened to be on sale, so that was kind of nice. Um, I also, after that, I then got back in contact with the Light of Life mission to arrange a time for me to drop everything off with them. I also ordered and picked up some stickers and some smiley face stress balls to pass out to anybody that was kind enough to donate during this drive. So it felt like at this point I had done everything I needed to leading up to the day of the event. The day of the event, I arrived about an hour early just to make sure everything was set up and everything was okay. Uh, then we hosted the event, went off without a hitch. It was kind of nice actually seeing people that would come into the restaurant for lunch and would see the sign, see me sitting there, and I would converse with them about everything, what it was all about. And a few people actually, had their lunch and then left and came back and brought donations, which was really cool to see the community helping out like that. I did leave two boxes there with signs on them, with signs saying that I was going to do this through the end of the month. and I was able to collect a few more donations over that time. At that point, I went and picked up the boxes on October 1st, and then I took them down to the Light of Life, and that was pretty much it. So, some of the things I learned a little bit about the this really did take me out of my comfort zone a little bit. I do like to volunteer and be active in the volunteering scene, but most of my volunteering is done behind the scenes. When I volunteer with Light of Life, I typically do food prep for them for before either lunch or breakfast service. So it's just, me in the kitchen, usually with one other person preparing meals. And when I volunteer with the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, that's usually in the warehouse, sorting and filling boxes. When it came to something I learned with this process, I'd say there was two things. One I would have done to improve it is I would have created a bigger social media push, um, just greater promotion in general. It was never, I didn't start early enough when it came to trying to get the word out and trying to create awareness for the event. So I definitely learned that it's never too early to start promoting any sort of charity event, anything in that general. Um, and the other thing I learned, and that kind of brings me around to tying this into some of the stuff we learned in class, and that was the asset-based community development. I needed the help of my community really to pull this off. One, just the kindness of people in my community to donate, but also, uh, to have a location. I needed help from a friend in my community to give me the location to be able to hold this. And, I went to another friend who provided me with the folding tables and, other people throughout the community that posted this and spread this via word of mouth. So overall, I would say this was a very rewarding experience, and I'm glad to have stepped out of my comfort zone and been on more of the public facing aspect of volunteering. And I kind of look forward to trying to push that a little bit further. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.